it's wild this morning. Just been to see the physio, had a bad back for a few weeks, and now I'm working on improving my core strength. So I thought I'd go out for a bit of a walk. I had a bit of a surprise yesterday because on my on YouTube, where I've got a channel, this channel, I produce videos for music appreciation, and one of my online friends, Mike in Boston, he name checked my channel as one of the things that he's thankful for Thanksgiving. But what was particularly interesting, well, that was interesting in itself, of course. Thanks, Mike. But what was also particularly interesting is the fact that he mentioned that I was retired. And I've kind of been retired for about 3 years now. I was kind of deciding I was going to semi-retire. But it's kind of strange to hear someone else describe me as retired. I think I finally, just like an old friend of mine, says he didn't retire, the world retired him. His desire was to continue working, and then he realized that eventually the world moves on. And so thought I'd reflect a little bit on what retirement has felt like for me. So my career was about 40 years long, really. And the main chunk of it was I was a strategic procurement practitioner. And then I got into education and training, where I became a consultant and started teaching others how to do strategic procurement and indeed sales. And when you kind of effectively work for yourself, you can make choices about how much you want to work, at least up to a point. And I was kind of thinking that I would have a slow glide into retirement and gradually disengage from business. And just checking my mic still there. And so I do just several workshops a year instead of working quite intensively. So I saw myself as in the knowledge transfer business, where I was teaching others how to do their work better and getting paid for it, of course. And what I found was that after a year or two of that, I neither felt that I had both feet in business or both feet in retirement. So I was enjoying the idea of having a lot more free time, but having one foot in each camp was proving to be quite tricky because I didn't commit to being retired, and neither did I commit to the work. And when you're in the knowledge business, you've got to keep abreast of the latest developments and research and what organizations are doing. And that is a full-time job. Even though you might not be facing the client full-time, you've got to be on top of your game. And I found that I was being compromised because I really wasn't committing to that work as much as I'd done so in the past. So I was in this limbo about how to disengage from work and embrace retirement. And in my experience, that's been a tricky endeavor. And I know people today who insist that they're going to continue working until they drop. But I think what eventually happens is that the world does indeed retire you. And just to illustrate how your career changes really, is that, I had a pretty successful career and I traveled the world and I was speaking at conferences and running training programs and all that sort of stuff. But a friend of mine who'd emigrated to New Zealand after about 12 years or so, him and his wife decided to return back to the UK, and he wanted to kind of rebuild his network. And I found, well, he asked me, or I offered. I said, look, why don't I put you in touch with the people who I think are the movers and shakers in your professional field, which is procurement as well. I'll help you get some introductions, maybe some meetings, and maybe some business opportunities, some job opportunities. And I trawled through over 2,000 connections on LinkedIn, and I found really there's barely more than a dozen people who I could connect them with, who were still really active and kind of our generation. They're all retiring or doing something else these days. So I think that's like an illustration to me anyway, how the world retires you. Is that you're just not, it's now, the baton is now being handed to the next generation. And that's fine, that's really cool. But yeah, I wasn't able to help him too much. So I wanted to retire. I thought it'd be time to kind of roll back how much work I was going to do. And I spent 3 years now managing that transition. And it was possibly only when Mike, MJK Boston in the United States, who called me or declared me as retired, that I think, oh, maybe I have finally retired. I've given up. And that's where I am today. So let's talk about what it's felt like, what it feels like to be retired. Bloody hell, my knees. So what's it felt like being retired? Well, life's a lot simpler. Things have really stripped back. I'm becoming less and less concerned with keeping up to date with what's going on in my professional field. Having to negotiate some mud here. Oh, yeah. So I have friends still in the business, and we still chat about all things business once in a while. But I find that really I'm not so interested anymore. So that's almost completely stripped from my life now. This desire, this personal desire to stay in touch and stay informed in that domain. I'm not commuting anymore. I'm not traveling with business. So, having done work just about everywhere other than the Middle East and South America, now I'm only thinking about holidays, breaks away with friends. So it's amazing how your life becomes really simplified. So I'm not working and I'm not traveling. What do? Well, I try and stay healthy. Cycle 2,000 to 3,000 miles every year, notwithstanding the occasional injury that keeps me off the bike for a month or so. But I was out riding again yesterday, so I'm back on it. So I try and keep fit, and I'm recognizing, and I think it's because my elderly parents are becoming more and more frail now. And I've always been, in comparison to them, really active. But I'm in my early mid-60s now, and I'm beginning to feel it. And I'm also realizing that if I want to have as many years of active health, live in good health, then I'm going to have to work. So I'm concerned daily now about exercising, walking, and indeed, because of the engagement I've had with this physio, doing stretching and other exercises, several times a day. So I'm much more concerned about my health now. My diet's not as good as it could be, but I'm getting there. So in effect, I'm learning to slow down and embrace a more controlled, healthier, less stressful way of living. So what do I do to kind of keep myself energized? Well, more and more I'm making videos. It's kind of interesting to get your thinking together on a particular subject, and then commit that to video as a kind of a personal record, or a record that might be interesting to other people. But also I'm doing the music stuff and cycling stuff, and I think the idea is to try and use those things as my creative output. So whilst I'm sitting around watching YouTube videos, just like you are right now, reading books, catching up with a lot of the long list of books I've wanted to read or reread. It's I've kind of realized that I have to look after my health. I have to look after my mental health, and I have to have a creative outlet. So it's kind of what I'm doing. That's how my life is, and it's punctuated by trips with friends, or to see friends, or to just go to the sun on holiday. Got to have things to look forward to, haven't you? So those have been some of the practicalities. So what is my routine like, and keeping healthy and all that sort of business. But how does it feel kind of retiring? Well, you do realize that you're not a player anymore. And for some people that's really difficult to deal with. And I found it interesting. Not that I hanker back for the attention and the business opportunities. All that's, I'm happy to leave that behind, as I've indicated. But just recognizing that really, you just got to get on with your life and leave it to the others. So there's been a bit of challenge to the ego, but that's fine. But what about overall psychological well-being? Well, has been tricky to let go and to tolerate, deal with the amount of time that you've got on your hands. Now, I know that we're all time limited, but just routinely, sometimes the weeks just go by and I've not really achieved anything in particular. And I'm still psychologically locked into this Monday to Friday routine, and it's the weekend. But everything's the weekend now, so try to accept that you've got a 7-day weekend is not been easy, and I'm not there yet. And I think it's because really we still got one of our daughters at school, so there's a bit of family routine that is going to be there for a little while yet. Looking ahead here, it looks like we've got a couple of golfers are out, or maybe that's somebody on a mobility scooter. God, it's beautiful at this time of year. Look at that. I found myself walking through the golf course, dodging golf balls, and I've just seen a guy over there pick his ball up on the fairway. And I'm never quite certain about the rules of golf, whether you're supposed to touch the ball from the moment you get from the tee to the green. The people I play with, I think they bend the rules sometimes. They probably won't be watching this though. One way of looking at retirement is to consider it a gift, because not everybody makes it this far. And I think if you're able to retire, you should look back and think, of what a good journey you've been on. And this is the next stage of that journey. And then, as I've already indicated with my own priorities, as to how can I stay as healthy as I can possibly be to get those years of good health in before decrepitude takes over. You often hear about people who are retired who get lonely and they miss the camaraderie and the social interaction that surrounds work and the excitement of doing a lot. Well, I'm lucky. I've not experienced that loneliness. It's been more of an opportunity to engage and re-engage with friends, spend time doing stuff together, playing golf, going for hikes, doing cycling trips, or just socializing, for just having lunch. So I've not suffered from the loneliness issue, but it's something to consider. If you haven't got a good social network that's going to sustain you in retirement, then you need to be thinking about having hobbies that is going to get you that social interaction to make life tolerable, because all that time on your hands with not so much to do with it is a recipe for depression, I think. So in summary, my hobbies are making videos, cycling, hiking, literature. Might watch the odd movie or TV series box set. And that's of course, and hanging out with friends. So that's it's a bit like being on holiday, although after 3 years, it doesn't feel like a real holiday, because when you're at home, there's always chores, always things to be fixed, things to do. So it's not. I did have this idea on that, on that particular subject. This idea that when I retired, it would feel like waking up every morning on holiday, thinking, open the curtains, look at the sunshine, think, what are we going to do today? But no, there's always a to-do list when you're at home. So that focus on relaxation is it's really important to me. I'm beginning to suspect that it's really important for most people. So how do people learn to relax? And as I said earlier, embrace retirement. So anyway, that's my experience so far. 3 years in, finally accepted that I am retired. I'm gonna come off LinkedIn. I'm off Twitter and Facebook and all that sort of stuff for a few years now. So it's just me and you on YouTube and the world around where I live. So anyway, that's retirement. See you in the next video.